Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream. I'm Cowboys Beat. I'm joined with my guy AKOYE. What's up, bro? How you doing?
What's up with you, man? Good to be seen, man. It's been a minute. For those who haven't seen me, don't clown on my camera either, because somebody stole my computer, so I'm using a MacBook today. But I'll get back to the normal standard pretty soon.
Hey, man, look, bro, it's just great to have you back in the community right now because you know what I'm saying. You've been on a little hiatus. You're promoting a fight right now, which
Oh
I'm gonna be
man,
in the building for at the Met in Philadelphia.
yeah, for sure,
Talk about
man.
your fight real quick, bro.
Yeah, we doing it all August 24th. We got Gilly the kid from Barstool Sports and Wallow doing the commentary, and they're doing the ring reporting. So it should be fun for that because every time I went to one of their events, it's been fun. But we got BY Jennings on the card as well. So this event is like it's been my baby, man. I put everything into it this year. I've been going at it this year. So if you haven't seen me, it's because I've been all hands on deck trying to make sure this inaugural event is what it's supposed to be. But I'm loving it, man. I'm not gonna leave football behind, but boxing is definitely one of my other passions. So I figured like it was a good time during the off season to shift my focus and make sure I get this done right. But yeah, we're there August 24th at the Met at 5 p.m. I think we start, but you guys can stream it at bxngtv.com. You guys can go out and stream that now. It's only like $20, so don't send me no super chats. Go ahead and stream it for $20. Don't send me no super chats. Just stream it at bxngtv.com if you want to support it. And yeah, just support that. You'll be supporting the channel because we're gonna definitely blow this shit up once we have that done. Yeah.
Hey, Law Nation, if you want to join, make sure to hop in, bro. Definitely, let me
That's
know.
my guy.
Shoot me a
Law been
text.
pumping for me too, man. I gotta show love with love to do, man. Law's my guy. I fuck with Law, man. He
And
definitely
hey,
been showing support.
you got some other money to make, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Always.
I'm talking about your read.
Oh, Bet US Sportsbook. Hold on a second. Let me put this on here. I said, oh, Bet US Sportsbook. They're gonna be like, oh man, this motherfucker act like he don't even know us. Hold on a second. Let me present real quick. Let me present share screen. Bang. Hold on a second. And we can plug them later because I can't get. I got a new computer. But hold on a second. Let me see if it's going through. Well, either way, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna do the read and then we'll put the graphic up. I'll put the graphic up in post. Hold on. Oh, it did go through. Got it. Now it's working. You can see that.
Yeah, let me add it to the stage for you.
Yep, you should be able to see it.
Yep, we're good. We say it.
All right, you guys already know. You know what I'm saying. I like to bet throughout the season, so you guys know how I do, man. But if you're looking for a new book this season or a new bookie, Bet US Sportsbook's been good to me, so they'll be good to you guys too. They got fast payouts. I think the fastest in the industry. I think they give 125% sign up bonus up to $2,000 for your first deposit, and then there's a fast and easy withdrawal. So you guys are betting with me, especially if you guys watched boxing over the weekend. I made some money off of that fight as well, off of those fights as well. Big Baby losing, I made money off that. But yeah, if you guys are betting with me, definitely we're going to be doing bet segments throughout the season. So just stick with me, and if you bet with me, make sure you're using or at least consider betusportsbook.com. Man, I appreciate it.
And hey, before we get into the show, make sure to get them likes up. Hit that like button. We would greatly
Mm-hmm,
appreciate that. It don't cost you
mm-hmm.
guys nothing. So make sure to hit the like button.
Oh yeah,
So,
make sure you do that. You can take
bro,
it.
we got a lot of catching up to do. Oh, boom. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I took it off. Yeah, we
We got
definitely
a
got to
lot of
make it.
catching up to do when it comes to this Cowboys football team. I'm sure everybody's anticipating to hear what you got to say about
Oh, I
training
hope
camp
so.
so
I just
far.
want. I want to see. I want to touch the people, man. Let's do it. Yeah, for sure.
What are your takeaways from training camp so far?
Um, what I see is like the installs from Zimmer have been what we talked about before we stopped. Like when we started talking about Zimmer coming on board and talked about Zimmer being like the guy that him or Rex Ryan being the guys that can kind of get these guys into shape. He's only done one thing since he's been here, and that's like showed up and showed out. Man, he's lived up to everything that I thought he would be so far. Obviously we got to go out and put it on the field in real games, but as far as training camp is concerned, the relationship with the players, using Micah Parsons in different ways, off ball a lot. It makes me look like a genius at this point because we were arguing this all last season about the linebackers, about Marquise Bell being a great safety and an average or below average linebacker, and now they have him back at safety as well. So a lot of the things we touched on and talked about, we're seeing come to fruition now, and I'm excited about that because Zimmer is a guy to me. I think that is that we were already good, but I think he's that it factor that can take us over the top when it comes to having a defense that can smother the hell out of opposing offense and understand how to set the tone rather than coming out there with that remember the Titan style, where it's like we're going to do our thing and you're just going to have to deal with it. Like, nah, Zim's going to trick you and he's going to whip guys into shape. So I've seen that, thus far. I see Mazi using his hands properly, Mickey Mouse, you know what I mean? But I see a lot of things that I think are exciting for this season because, to be quite honest with you, I was just as dejected as the rest of the fans because although we do content, I'm still a fan. So, I was just as dejected as most of our fans were with the way the team looked down the stretch last year concerning the lack of linebacker. So to address that and linebacker right now being like one of the rooms that's pretty stacked at this point, I'm excited because that was what a difference a couple of months in the offseason makes, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. You got any other takeaways before I get into mine here?
Well, we like Guyton. Guyton seems to be, what I thought he could be. I think that we get in these arguments every offseason, where we all, say what we want, other content creators, fans, we all talk about what we want and what we want to see. And there's a lot of validity on both sides or all sides of those arguments. But when you looked at the Cowboys with Steele, when you look at them with Austin Richards, when you look at the way and the traits that they look for, length and athleticism over strength, because they figure, hey, I can get you strong in the weight room. I can get your technique better. But if you have athleticism and length, I can't teach that. You know what I mean? I can't teach that. So it seems like they've nailed it with Guyton from the way he started off. Everybody wants to give Duke Merriweather the credit, but give that young man his credit. Whether it's Duke Merriweather that's teaching him or not, he's doing the work and he doesn't have to. So for him to be putting himself out there like that, doing what he's supposed to do, I'm excited to see what Guyton can do too, because I saw him wall off Micah Parsons for an entire week. I actually haven't seen Micah Parsons beat him yet. So I don't know. He probably has, but I haven't seen it. You know what I mean? In any of the highlights. So offensively, I'm thinking we're going to look pretty good, man. And then we have, a wide receiver core that looks like it's growing too. So that's where I'm at right now as far as takeaways. But Micah Parsons being moved around off ball, on ball, is really exciting for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, like when it comes to that Duke Manyweather Tyler Guyton thing, Duke would tell you himself that's Tyler, because at the end of the day, like Duke Manyweather's great, and we all know that. But if you don't have an athlete willing to commit themselves to the training that they're receiving from a trainer, at the end of the day, it really is all for nothing. So Tyler does deserve a lot of credit for seeking out the help of Duke Manyweather. And yeah, I mean, credit to Duke Manyweather, no doubt about it. But the person who deserves the most credit for that is Tyler Guyton. And I don't want people to get away from that. My main takeaway from training camp is that the message that we're hearing from FS1, ESPN, opposing fan bases, just NFL talk in general is completely different from the feeling that I'm getting from this training camp. Like, I can't tell you the last time I've had as much fun covering a training camp, just watching, reading, going over what's happening in training camp, because it seems like there's always an interesting story coming out of each practice. You have Mike Zimmer yesterday and how good of a job he did in the blue and silver or the blue and white practice with, disguising things on the back end and some of his blitz calls that he had. You had Tyler Guyton and Micah. You have Dak looking really sharp, even though he doesn't have CeeDee Lamb. So I think some of the noise that we're hearing about this team outside of, the building and in this fan base or outside of the fan base isn't necessarily consistent to what's actually going on. I see a team that is hungry. I see a team that's competitive. You hear every single day, this was their most intense practice by far. And I'm buying that because I believe in the players on this team. I really do. Like, I believe in a Tyler Smith, a Jake Ferguson, Micah, Dak, all those guys. Kalen Carson is a guy that seems like he could potentially be stepping up.
The secondary is stacked, man. The secondary is stacked.
No, I 100% agree. So my main takeaway is that what's being talked about outside of the team isn't really what's going on inside of the team. And another takeaway I have is just how much development these young players have been taking, especially when you look at those like second, third year guys like Overshone, even though he didn't play last year. He looks like a gangster. Damone Clark apparently is having a really good training camp. I'm interested to see what happens there. I'm hesitant to buy into the hype, but we'll see what happens. Maybe
I ain't buying it, man. Not until I see it on the field. I got to see what preseason look like for my youngin. But
bro,
I ain't buying Damone Clark yet. I can't, because every offseason they do this to me with Damone Clark. It's like, hey, he's looking great with no contact. But let's see what happens when we start hitting, man.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. So, but on top of that, like, you're hearing stuff from the rookies, the second-year players, and then the third-year players, like a Jalen Tolbert. Looks like he's developed. And let's keep it real. Jalen Tolbert was a good player for this team last year. He just didn't get the opportunities because Gallup was in his way. And on top of the fact that CeeDee Lamb is going to get a bunch of targets. And I do want to – I know it's a bit off topic. Can we stop saying that, hey, CeeDee Lamb is being force-fed the ball? When you're always getting open, you're not getting force-fed. That's called the quarterback making the right decision. There is a difference between the two. CeeDee Lamb is like always open.
I never looked at it like he was being force-fed the ball, but at the same time, I felt like the money ball with the Cowboys kind of overshadowed Tolbert last year. Gallup actually being there. Because there's no way you can tell me Gallup was the better of the two in any way last season. So, like you said, Tolbert was a good player last year. I don't think he's ever going to get lion's share of anything. But when you have that type of chemistry that he has with Dak, and I think Cooks has pretty good chemistry with him now, and then you do have CD doing what he's doing and drawing certain looks and attention, those guys are just going to eat. No, they're never going to get the amount of targets as a CD, but they definitely should eat this season. They should have ate last year too. But I think Tolbert is primed for a breakout season. You know what I mean? He doesn't need that many targets to have an impact on the game.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the receivers a little more later in the episode. But like one last thing I want to touch on before we get into the next topic here is like Jalen Tolbert last year made big plays. Like in that Eagles game in Philly, he had the play on the scramble drill where Dak found him down the field. He had the touchdown. In the Miami game, he had that 50-50 ball that was underthrown that he came down with. So I think that with an increased rep count and more targets coming his way, Jalen Tolbert will be a capable number 3 receiver, if not more than that.
Oh, yeah.
But so the next thing I want to talk about here is Micah Parsons in this new Mike Zimmer defense. What are your expectations for Micah Parsons this upcoming season?
What they've always been. I've never changed my tone on Micah Parsons since we drafted him, since before he even put the star on his helmet. It was a guy that should take maybe 2 or 3 years if you ask him to do everything. If you ask him to be just a defensive end, I thought he would come in. I said this publicly. He would come in and he would kill as a defensive end because of his raw athleticism. But if you want him to play linebacker and D end and kind of take over a defense the way he can, you're going to give him 2 to 3 years to understand the game. And I think that the only thing that I can say about that statement that I would adjust is it may take a little longer due to the fact that we didn't use him correctly, nor did we teach him correctly for the first 3 years. He wasn't in linebacker rooms learning linebacker, learning what he should be learning from Zimmer right now. The upside to that statement, though, is Zimmer is probably going to get through to him and he'll learn more in 1 year with Zimmer than he did in the 3 years with Quinn. And this is not saying Quinn isn't a good coach. Quinn just was relying on the athleticism of Micah Parsons for those 3 years. And now Zimmer's going to do the same, but he's going to direct that force rather than just letting it run wild. And I think that's going to be the thing that we all want, including Micah Parsons. My argument on him was never make him just a linebacker or make him just a defensive end, but it was to use the tool the way it should be used. And I'm actually for him when it comes to trying to become the defensive player of the year and so on. This is how you do it though. You don't do that by trying to become the best defensive end that you can be. You do that by showing the defensive ends that you're competing against, like the Myles Garretts and the TJs, they can't do what you can do. You know what I mean? You show them that by doing the stuff off ball that you can do and doing their job. You know what I mean? You show linebackers like Fred Warner, you can't do what I do by doing what he does and playing defensive end. That's how you become the most valuable defensive player in the game, by doing the stuff that we see you flash and do, like covering receivers, covering running backs, stuffing the run, breaking through double teams off ball. You know what I mean? Firing off the ball on the edge, controlling the A gap. When you can make an impact in all those different areas in the game, it's a no brainer in regards to who's the most valuable player on the defensive side of the ball for the entire year. And I think that's what we're going to get out of Micah Parsons now. And it's not because he's ascending, it's because we're finally going to see him used the right way.
Yeah. And I think that, something that's a bit underrated when it comes to Micah Parsons playing more linebacker is he's not just going to exclusively make plays against the pass. Like, he's going to make plays against the run. Like, you're going to see him force more fumbles. You're going to see him have more tackles for loss. And that's always been my thing with Micah. Like, put him in a position to make plays because that's what he wants. He wants the smoke. Like, he wants the work. He doesn't want to be on the edge, setting the edge and funneling the work into Marquise Bell. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to get downhill, put hands on interior offensive linemen,
right,
make plays against the run, make plays as a pass rusher, make plays as a blitzer. And now, like, you're going to see him more well-rounded. You're going to see him across the formation. Like, they'll line him up in A or B gap or whatever it may be, and they'll let him loose. And I think these edges will actually, even though the edges, Nealon and DeMarcus Lawrence, is that as strong of an edge combo as Parsons and Lawrence? I don't think it is. But at the same time, you're still going to get sack production from those two guys, because if you're rushing Micah Parsons on the interior, where is the quarterback going to go? Is he just going to stay in the pocket and allow himself to be sacked, or is he going to try and get out of the pocket? And at that point,
when you have a guy like a Nealon, I think Nealon and even Sam Williams, if he would have stayed healthy, they're the types that you need along with DeMarcus Lawrence, because you want on the edge with the Micah Parsons and the A gap, you want guys that are crushers that can collapse a pocket rather than speed rush and try to athletically get there. Because when you have guys that can collapse and shrink the pocket, and you create like a kill zone, right? And then that guy is firing off the ball at the A gap. If I create A gap pressure, whether it's Osa doing it or Micah Parsons doing it or Kendrick's doing it, if you have those guys collapsing the pocket and crushing it, that quarterback doesn't have anywhere to escape to. You know what I mean? Rather than just having a guy that's firing off the ball from one angle, and now that quarterback can either slide protection one way, he can shift, he can read hot, get the ball out. There's other things they can do. I think when you make Micah Parsons a multiple force and you move him around like a chess piece, you make them have to think. And you only got 40 seconds before the play clock is expired. You know what I'm saying? So when you get to that line of scrimmage, and we actually were talking about that with one of the plays that we saw Dak get stripped on. But when you get to the line of scrimmage and you have a guy like Zimmer that's kind of disguising things, moving guys around and making you think, and then using the clock against you, and you have to deal with a guy like Micah Parsons, it's crazy, because it's like you already can't deal with him even if he's just playing straight up. You can't deal with him. But if now you're having to deal with a guy that is cerebral and you have a coach that understands what to do with that, oh, man. Now, just think about how good we thought the defense could be last year, and take into account that we had 5 games where we didn't look good because teams decided to run. But we played an entire year with no linebackers, right? And I don't count LV as a linebacker, so even when he was healthy, we were playing with no linebackers. I don't count Damone Clark as a linebacker because he's not. If you have not physical and linebacker in the same sentence, it's not a linebacker in my opinion. until you linebackers are physical. That's it. That's just the way it is. If you're not physical and you're a linebacker, I don't count you as playing with a real downhill thumping linebacker. But we went through an entire year as a good defense last year with no linebackers. We were good, not great. Now I feel like the litmus test is going to be on who starts, how we use the guys that are in that rotation. But we have a bunch of guys that I wouldn't mind starting, and I'm including Damone Clark, even though I give him hell. He's been here long enough for me to say when he's on the field, I'm not cringing that he's on the field. If it were him and Bell next to each other, yeah. But him by himself with a Kendricks, a Martiste, a Micah, any of those guys, I'm okay with that. And then it's the kid Harvey that came over from the
He's
CFL.
looking good, man. He's
Yeah, I
looking
like him
good.
too. I like him
He's
too.
looking
So
good.
we got a linebacker room now, man, that looks good. The whole room looks like I wouldn't mind watching any of them play. And then Overshawn, I didn't even say his name, and that's wild because Overshawn looks great too. So we went. It's what a difference an off season can make, man. But it's definitely going to be something to look at when you look at how much we can do with the players that we have, both from the defensive line standpoint. You got Fehoko, he's now going to play a little bit more. You got Chauncey that can play 3 out, so he can play 3 tech. Even he plays some 1 tech sometimes too, but play 3 tech, 4 all the way out. You know what I mean? So I love what we have right now around Micah Parsons, which allows him to move anywhere on any given play because we have guys that can replace him in those spots when need be.
Hey, can I ask this question? So
Mhm.
you wouldn't consider it's I actually have 2 questions here. You wouldn't consider Damone Clark a Mike linebacker, right? He's a weak side guy.
Well, I would consider the Damone Clark that I watched on film in LSU at any kind of linebacker he wants to be. The Damone that we've grown accustomed to, yeah, is more of a will linebacker, because of his neck, And honestly, I don't know where this goes. I don't have a thing against Damone Clark. I have something against taking guys who have those types of injuries and trying to force them to do something that's just not in their best interest to do. Like both LV to me in college was a stud. Coming in, I said the same thing in the film, watching him come into the league, which is he hits with his head down, not looking at his target. And when you do that, you're going to mess your neck up even more. So I said if he doesn't correct that and start using his hands a little bit as well when he comes into the league, his career is going to be short lived. People didn't like it when I said that, but that's exactly what we got. And the time when we got good play out of him was when he was playing with reckless abandonment. When he wasn't, and I was kind of clowning him for his game, it's not because his game is bad. It's because he's playing to protect his neck. And I think Damone, if that's what we're getting, that's what we were getting out of Damone as well. So to answer your question, Damone is a prototypical linebacker, just like LVE is. LVE is more of a true middle linebacker, but Damone is a prototypical linebacker that can kind of play anywhere he wants. He's fast. He's sideline to sideline. He can hit, despite what I say about him. It's just that he won't because it's not in his best interest to, and I don't blame him. If it's me, if I have a check on the line, and I got kids to feed, and you, the fan, want me to, knock somebody's head off, but I can, kindly, politely rat tackle them and live to fight another day, I'm gonna do that. You know what I mean? Because that's what I should do based off the injury that I have. So that's just the way the cookie crumbled with him. But I think he can play anywhere, and if it's Will, I think Will is best for him based off the injury because he could be the cleanup guy rather than the Sam that's setting the tone or a Mike linebacker that's kind of having to deal with guards a lot more than the Will. So if it's going to be anywhere, it's Will. But me personally, I think if you're going to say the argument that I just stated, you got guys like Martiste, you got guys like Overshawn, you got guys like, Harvey's more like a true middle, but you got guys that can play Will, I think, a lot more physical or a lot better than Damone can at this point, other than the fact that you could say, he knows the team, but he doesn't. No one knows the scheme other than Kendricks. So everybody's kind of at an even playing field when it comes to cerebral football play.
Yeah, and I think DeMarvion Overshown is a legit starting weak side linebacker. Like if your starting duo at linebacker is Kendricks and Overshown, that's a good starting duo.
You're looking
But
good.
then Damone Clark is not bad as a depth piece at all. Like
Oh, he's
he's not a
lovely
bad,
there.
yeah, Yeah, exactly. And
I
that's the
wouldn't say you were going to build a defense around him being our
oh
guy.
yeah, for sure.
But him, that's why I said if he's on the field, I'm not cringing. I only was cringing last year because we had him as our main linebacker. Like he was our centerpiece after LVE went down. That's not it. But having him come in and give you some reps, that's what he should be doing.
Exactly. And I think that's what he's going to be asked to do now in this defense. And I think because of that, that's going to be the best for him. And yeah, I mean, like, look, Overshown's going to be a dude. I mean, you just see it. You don't, obviously we have to wait and see come the regular season how good he'll be. But you can tell the paws on a pup how big they're going to be.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing here with Overshown. And he's, bro, him being out that rookie season, I really think he's trying to take somebody's top off. Like for real. Like I get that.
When wasn't he though? When hasn't
True.
he?
No, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure, definitely. But
I
I just get a sense he's really, really trying to do that shit right now. Like nobody better try and test this dude because I mean he seems like a really nice guy off the field. He definitely is.
Maybe.
Well, wait till he gets on the field. He's gonna knock the fuckers helmet off first fight he gets because he's hungry, man. And just overall, like, bro, this linebacker room, especially now that you have Micah playing more at linebacker. I mean, bro, the secondary is really deep. The linebacker room might be is on that same level. Like,
we're about five to six deep that where we're like I said, Overshown, Kendricks, Martise. I'm good with those three. Micah, that's four. Then you got who else didn't I name? Oh, like I said, Buddy Johnson's okay. You know what I mean? You have Harvey's looking
Clark.
good.
Did you say Clark?
Clark, you know what I mean? So you got a deep room there. I would say those first three that I named though are the guys that I say are going to get the heaviest rotation and should. You know what I mean? But when you have a linebacker room that one is led by a Kendricks who understands this defensive scheme, something crazy, and then you have Zimmer behind that. So you have the general on the sideline, and then you have the lieutenant on the field that can kind of reiterate some of the stuff that you want, get guys in position, make some of the headsy plays that you want to make, and teach other guys how to deal with what may be coming, how to deal with film, how to read and watch the film, to a point where you understand what you should be assessing. We did not have that, since Sean Lee left. We didn't have it with LV. Don't tell me LV is the smart guy. I didn't think so. And even if he wasn't the guy that people were going to rally behind and say, you can teach us this scheme, because Quinn's scheme wasn't his scheme either. He just got there, right? So Kendricks, knowing Zim and coming from Zim, he can teach Zim's scheme, and people respect his game enough to say, hey, let's listen to what this guy has to say, and let's try to understand what Zimmer wants from us, because Zimmer has clearly shown that he has the utmost respect and trust in Kendricks. So that being said, the entire linebacker room just got better, including Clark, because all of them will start to get understanding for what's going on in front of them and what's going on with everyone around them in a way that they never got before.
Yeah, no, for sure. Next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about Mazi Smith here. So,
my guy, good.
What do you? So here's the thing. I've been hearing two different things when it comes to Mazi Smith. I'm hearing some people say, there's improvement there, and then I'm hearing some people say like Jeff Zanina is tearing this guy a new asshole about, and he's asking him to do the same thing over and over again, and it doesn't look like he's being. It doesn't look like it's necessarily translating into what we need to see with his development. And my thing with Mazi Smith is this. I think he can be a good run stuffer, but my thing is when we can draft a good run stuffer in the third, fourth, fifth round. I need Mazi Smith to be a good run stuffer, and I need him to be able to rush the passer. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to give you much in the pass rush outside of maybe pushing the pocket. And that to me is a little disappointing when because my expectation of the player was, hey, I think that this is a dude that could be Dexter Lawrence. And I don't think he's going to be that.
What's wrong with being Vince Wilfork?
No, you're right. But is he going to be Vince
What's
Wilfork?
wrong with being Casey Hampton?
I hope he's
What's
those
wrong
guys.
with that? Why
I hope he's those
y'all such
guys.
see this is where we gotta stop dancing when it comes to football. People be dancing, man. You know I talk my shit, but people be dancing. You know what I mean? And not you. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Listen to these cliches. You know what I mean? He who controls the trenches controls the game. We know that, right? If you want to win the game, you gotta be able to run the football and stop the run, right? You want to get into pass rush situations, you got to be able to stop the run on early downs. Otherwise, it's going to be a long drive and a long day, right? We've had so many years where we had Antoine Woods. Don't tell me we can draft one in the late rounds, a run stuffer, that is. Because we've had the Antoine Woodses, the Tyrone Crawfords, the everybody you can name that we tried to like slap up in there that couldn't do jack shit to stop the run. They got ran over and ran through. Even my guy Osa, who I like a lot, he's a pass rusher more so and a slasher when it comes to stopping the run. He can cut in there and do it. But we saw when you direct action right at Osa and you have to double team, he's only 290, you know, like Mazi was last year. Like people don't really
He holds up well. I think
early, early in
yeah,
the games and early
yeah.
in the season, you see it start to wear on him late in the year. Even his pass rush stats start to be affected by the fact that those legs ain't built to be taken on no damn double teams. So when I look at that and I look at what people say about, oh, Mozzie is gonna stop the run, but you know that's not it. We need him to get 6, 7 sacks. Geno Atkins and Aaron Donalds, they come along once in a blue, right? All I need Mozzie to be able to do is seriously, you give me great run support and 3 to 5 sacks a year, which he'll get just off of being there in the A gap anyway. I'm happy with that. And I watched reps already, which people ignore. Just like you watch, boxing, you'll see guys ignoring punches that's landing for the guy that they don't like. They just act like it's not happening. You can't sack the quarterback in training camp, but I've watched Mazi actually tear off in the A gap and either chase down and either screen passes, chase down the quarterback, and the ball either comes out because you can't hit the guy. But those are plays that don't get talked about. They just keep talking about the run, and I'm watching the same shit that they're watching, but they just talk about the run. But when I say this, it looks like I'm a Mozzie fanatic, so me saying it, obviously, AKOYE is going to say it. But I have to remind people, I don't like none of them. I don't like not one player on the team. I like their play. So if I see good play, I'm going to talk about the play. If I see bad play, if it's coming from Micah, if it's coming from Mazi, I don't care who it is, I'm gonna say it. So I see good play coming from Mazi, both in the pass game and in the run game. But I never looked at Mazi as anything last year. Why? Because the guy wasn't doing what he does. If I look at you, like if I'm a pure, just using boxing for example, if I'm a pure brawler, like I just like to fight, and you see me on my toes boxing off my back foot and I lose a fight, I lost the fight, yeah, but I lost it doing something that I'm not accustomed to doing. Mazi didn't look good last year. He was 290 pounds. He was in his head because he didn't have the Jeff Zangnias or whatever cursing him out, trying to get him to be better at what he does. He had guys trying to get him to get upfield and be, Jalen Carter, which he's not, and he would never be, which I said he would never be. And no one should ever ask him to be because he's a hell of a Hummer or a tank. If you just ask him to use his strength and anchor the middle of the field in the A gap. That makes everybody else on the field better. So I don't give a shit what Mazi does in the pass rush game because those other guys, Micah included, will get sacks because he's putting those running backs in that offense in a longer down and distance, and he's making it so that you can't just decide to run at these guys up the A gap over and over and over again, like Arizona did to us, like the Bills did to us, like everybody did. They ran through us like a $2 hooker all last year up the middle whenever my guy wasn't in there, Hankins wasn't in there. You know what I'm saying? So I like what we got in Mazi, man. And I think Mazi's going to do what he needs to do. I'm only judging him. Now I'm judging him because he has a coach that's going to ask him to do what he's good at. And if he's not stopping the run, if he's getting pushed off the ball, he looks weak at the point of attack versus the run, then I'm going to be on his ass just like anybody else. But if he's not asked to do that, I can't speak on him, man. So all of Mazi hate from last year, you can't act like you don't see both. You can't say he's 290. You're not asking him to do what he wants to do, what he's supposed to do, but then say he's a bust at the same time, knowing that. You know what I mean? You can't look at it that way. That's just the way I think. Maybe I'm crazy.
Well, and we'll get to that super chat here in a second, but I do want to clarify something. I don't like speaking for other people, but I think a lot of people took what you said out of context when it came to, hey, Mazi Smith is the better fit for this team.
100%.
Jalen Carter is the better player.
Mhm.
And I don't think people understood that. They're just putting words in your mouth saying that you said Jalen or Mazi Smith was better than Jalen Carter.
Well,
To me, it sounded like your point was Mazi Smith at that time was the better fit for the, and still, I still think a run stuff like okay, you clarify.
Nope. This is what I think, bro. And now obviously Jalen Carter and Mazi hadn't played it down yet, and Jalen Carter, they're both young in their career. But what I said about Jalen Carter was true, and it showed. I said Jalen Carter is an Aaron Donald type. How does that mean Jalen Carter is trash? That's not coming at Jalen Carter.
Exactly.
I said exactly what he is. But we have a guy who's a 3 tech in Osa who we like. Why the hell would I go out and get another pass rusher? Even though he's better than Osa at pass rushing, but if Osa's a guy that's going to give me 5 to 7 sacks and Jalen Carter's going to give me 10, I still would keep Osa. I don't go draft that for 3 extra sacks. That doesn't make any sense. So the better fit is a guy who can play next to the guy that's going to give me my 5 to 8 sacks a season, which is Mazi, and stop the run, which is Mazi. That made sense then. It makes sense to me now. But what people like to do is make it seem like, they want to make an overarching thing. Like even when I said what I said, it was a reason for it. The Cowboys, I don't like the Cowboys drafting any more projects. Even if the project was Jalen Carter, I don't want any more projects. I don't want any more people with the boss man fat issues. So Jalen Carter had already had issues with the law, which I and just to say I'm not judging him, I killed someone with a car before. Well, he killed himself, but guy ran through a red light on a Harley and hit me when I was 18 years old, same age as Jalen Carter, and it affected my mind and my college career too. So it wasn't a judgment from that, but it was, hey, you did that, and then right after that, you get caught speeding and get in trouble, whatever. You don't look like you're learning your lesson.
There's no remorse.
And then the language that the media had around him was, oh, the reason the Eagles are a good fit is because he doesn't seem like his head is into the game. They said that the way he showed up to the combine, he was overweight and didn't want to work out. That's a guy that doesn't seem dedicated either. So on top of that, they said the fact that they had so many Georgia players on the Eagles, it would be a better environment for him. And I'm like, well, if we catering that much to a player that we're trying to take top 10, right? Not us, but someone's going to take top 10. I don't want a project at a top 10 pick. I still don't. I don't want a project as a top 10 pick. That makes sense to anyone in the world. Now, if I got to convince you that he still loves football and he's a top 10 pick, I don't want him. I don't. We had enough of that here. So that's why I said what I said, and I still stand on that. I didn't want him then. I don't want him now. Maybe he's going to turn out to be extremely good and extremely dedicated to football. That would be great. But he ain't a run stopper. He's a great pass rusher. He ain't a run stopper. And at the end of the day, I don't like the conversation that was had around him concerning his dedication to football or lack thereof. Why would I go get that when I got a Mazi that wants to play football and seems like he loves the blue collar mentality that at the time he seemed like he was coming into the league with. So I still stand on what I said. I said exactly that. Now, if people want to take a sound bite like they will off of this sound bite right now and say he said he doesn't want Jalen Carter then and he doesn't want him now, I don't give a shit. Now, I say what I say and I stand on what I say. But if anybody's ever really listening to me in a conversation, they never disagree with that because you can't tell me that a guy like who doesn't seem dedicated to the sport you're about to pick him top 10 in, you got to get him refocused and have people on the team babysit him. That's the guy that you want to go get. I don't want that. And I don't care if it's Jalen Carter or anybody. I didn't want it. I didn't like it when we did it with Bossman Fat. We did it with Chris Canty. We did it with Pac-Man Jones. We did this with Jalen Smith. We did it with LVE. We did it with Damone Clark. We keep getting these project play. I don't want any project players. Give me the guy that's ready to go now, that likes to play football, that can play physical, and that has his mental together today. That's what I want. And that's
And
what Mazi was at the time.
Bro, and you want to know what's crazy? Jalen Carter was the 9th pick in that draft. And the reason why he didn't go 10th overall to Philly is because Chicago was like, all right, yeah, let's get another pick out of this. And they got a 4th round pick for this year. 9 general managers agreed with you. And if there was another team in that 10th spot, very good chance that they would have agreed with you as well. So, people can try and sit here and say, oh, he's just yapping and this, that, and the third. GMs agreed with him. So, like, he's not saying anything that's out of the norm. And what you said makes a lot of sense, and it still makes a lot of sense because, I mean, look, I hope that he becomes a model citizen, but look, at the end of the day, there were questions around the guy, and I think you did a very good job articulating your point.
Right. Yeah. I don't need to defend that. I don't think anyway. Maybe I do, but who knows? But go ahead.
This is you, AKOYE, on the screen right now. This is your super chat.
Right. AKOYE, do you think Mazi should have been drafted in the first round? Hope all is well. Kennard, all is well. Someone stole my computer in May when I came back from Jamaica, for those who don't know, and we almost crash landed. And when I got back into the States, someone had broken into my car at the long-term parking at the airport, stole my gun, and stole my computer. So I don't have any of my footage, nothing, my hard drive, everything's gone. So I'm starting from scratch again. That's why you see this MacBook quality. But so all is well. There's nothing wrong with me. But to answer your question, should Mazi have been drafted in the first round? When you have a defensive tackle, like I believe drafting in the first round is not about just the player itself. It's about the need that you have as well, right? That year, based on what we were and what we needed and where our defense was, yes, what we did with him as a first round pick was horrible. But if you took Mazi and you put him next to Hankins or put him behind Hankins in rotation, and you made that a serious rotation, and you don't ask the guy to become a pass rusher, we instantly get better at stopping the run. If you would have played Mazi where he was supposed to be and actually had linebackers behind him, we instantly would have gotten better that year. So yes, I do think that when you're looking at the top 10, you're not going to get a Jalen Carter. And when you look at the rest of those guys later in the draft, like Benton, the kid from that went to Cleveland, that was from, I forget his name,
Siaki Ika.
Yeah. When you look at what the draft had to offer in the later rounds, and you compared those guys to Mazi, like a Benton and a Siaka, I looked at Mazi as the guy that one had the athletic traits where he was explosive but freakishly strong as well, and then had the size. So based on our need, yeah, I think that was fine to take him in the first round. I still do. I'm not one of these guys that thinks that a run stuffer is less valuable for some reason. I don't know how people keep getting to that assumption, but what's wrong with being Vince Wilfork? We all know his name. Why? Because he was a hell of a run stuffer. We have a lot of them that were in the game that like Big John Henry. You have Marcus Stroud. You have guys who Linval Joseph. You have guys who could stop the run who changed the game because of how well they stopped the run, not because of their pass rush game. You know what I mean? So I think Mazi's of that ilk if you let him play like himself. The film does not lie about what I saw with Mazi, because when you look at that Ohio State game, their entire offensive line were top draft pick players, and he beat the entire lineup himself. You don't just do that and then forget how to play football.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I agree with you. And so one more thing I want to talk about is I'm really impressed with these receivers right now. I think that the Cowboys, from wide receiver 3 to, if they carry, either 6 or 7, I think they're pretty set at that position. Mm-hmm. It's a diverse room too. There's multiple guys who can do multiple things. Mm-hmm. It's a really balanced room. It's young. There's not a lot of names that have proven that they are like a guy yet, like in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing per se. Mm-hmm. I think that these are guys that are waiting on their opportunity. So what are your thoughts on this wide receiver room right now? I love CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Tolbert, I think is a solid number 3. But I'm I'm really excited about the depth that they have in this room.
I mean, when I look at Tolbert, I just spoke with him earlier, but when I look at Tolbert, I feel like his game is still yet to be seen because, and don't get me wrong, CeeDee Lamb is the man. Don't get me wrong. Cooks is a burner and he has a lot of knowledge. Tolbert is a guy that people are sleeping on, but I don't care about what other people are saying in the media. I don't care about what people are saying really on the team, about the team. I mean, in as far as the content creators, because all I look at is what is Dak doing, and Dak loves the shit out of Tolbert for some reason. Whenever he's in the game, he tries to find him, and whenever he's on the field in training camp right now, he tries to find him. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb's not there, but even relationship wise, CeeDee Lamb seems to be more of the Madonna types. I think him and Dak, obviously, nobody's gonna lie and say they have the greatest relationship, but both him and Dak have had their run-ins verbally, whether it's the things that were happening on the sideline last year or the things his mother said. You know what I mean? Those things happened, right? Tolbert seems to be his protege, like the guy, his Padawan, the guy that's under his wing that Dak trusts, loves, and is trying to build up to be something. So when you have that type of endorsement from your quarterback, it's because he sees what we don't see. He's the one throwing him the ball. He's the one watching him run routes. He's the one talking to him. So I think that speaks to what Tolbert can be and will be. And people keep sleeping on that. That may be a good thing because Tolbert can, kind of sneak up on the league this year, if so. So I would say Tolbert is the one that I'm looking at that's slated for like the biggest season this year, because of that. I watch what Dak is doing. And when a quarterback has a favorite toy, Tolbert and Ferguson being those guys right now that Dak likes, he's going to throw to CD because of CD's talent. But I think he likes to throw to Ferguson and Tolbert. That's just real. So, and, remember Michael Irvin said he never used to piss his quarterback off because he knows if the quarterback like you, he come to court when you go to jail. You know what I mean? Because Troy Aikman was in the courtroom. That's how much he liked Michael Irvin. And I think Tolbert and Dak have that type of rapport, and that's going to be good for Tolbert. But then the other Jalen Brooks looks good every time I see him. You got Turpin, who I think could be that gadget guy who, I think is also a sleeper in the sense that he doesn't get the ball quite enough, but we can do some things with him that will change the tide of a game. Both his reverse game, he's averaging like 9 yards a touch whenever he gets the ball in those jet motions and so on. But he also with the ball is electrifying. So I want to see him special team. I just want to see him touch the ball at least 5 to 10 times a game. However you can get the ball to him.
He's a weapon. He's a weapon. Yeah. You want to know what one thing that I want to bring up about Turpin is Broadus and Kavanaugh made a great point about this. They were saying outside of CeeDee Lamb, if there's another person on this offense that really strikes fear into opposing defenses, it's Turpin because of how many things you can do with this guy. You can send him on a 9 route. You can have him do reverses. You can run an empty set, bring him in the backfield, hand him the football. There's so many things you can do with this guy to where, like, when he's on the field, you're thinking like, all right, like, what are they going to do here? Are they going to use him as a decoy? Or, there's so many things you can do with Kevontae Turpin. And hopefully they learn how to use the guy because I think that that's a legitimate asset for you. And, another guy that I want to bring up, he is a smaller guy as well, but like Jalen Cropper plays bigger than what he is. I mean, in that practice yesterday, he had a touchdown for the first team and he had a touchdown for the second team. I think Dak really likes throwing him the football as well because, he kind of has a little bit of Cole Beasley in him. I really feel that way about Jalen Cropper. I think he's got a little bit of that in him to where he plays a little bigger than what he is. Great route runner, quick, shifty, can do things with the ball after the catch.
Right.
That's another guy that I want to see what happens here and if he's going to make this team. Because if you're asking me who would I rather have, him or Tyron Billy Johnson, Tyron Billy Johnson's had a good camp. He's also 28 years old though. Like what is the ceiling for him compared to what is the ceiling for Jalen Cropper? That's the question. I'll ask you that. And ultimately, like, that's the question that the front office is going to have to answer for themselves.
Like I said, I like T Billy too, but I feel like Cropper, it creates an element where you got speed, you got route running ability, got pretty good hands. You got a bunch of guys. Our entire wide receiver room is pretty good, and that's a good problem to have. Do I think that T Billy wins out? It's going to come down to attrition, but they're realistically speaking, both Cropper and Billy may not make the 53 man due to the fact that you got to look at Turpin, Tolbert, Brooks. Then you have CD and Cooks. If they carry five, that's your five probably right there. And those other guys are just odd men out. They can fight for it, but injury may change things. You never know. But one thing I'll say again that people didn't take into account is when have you ever seen a Mike McCarthy team that's not loaded with talent at linebacker? I mean, at wide receiver. That's always a thing. That's always been his thing because he was a wide receiver coach first. So him and Mike Tomlin started off as wide receiver coaches, right? And they both always have wide receivers for days, right? So that's not by accident. You know what I mean? So I think that you're gonna always be heartbroken. We always are anyway about somebody or another, but especially about those bottom of the depth chart wide
Depth chart
receivers.
guys, yeah.
We always got one that we say, oh, we should have kept that guy. But it's going to happen this year too. One or both of those guys won't be here. But should they be? That's a different argument. They're all very talented. But I even saw the guy. What's his name? What's his name?
David Durden.
Durden. I
The
saw
white
Durden
boy.
dive across the screen and make a diving catch. That was crazy. I was like, who the hell is that? And it's like, that's Durden. I said, oh, he won't be here. But but he's good.
Yeah, hey, he'll be here. He might not make the 50.
He's on a practice squad somewhere.
Hey, practice squad guys make good money too, people. So
they do. So I'm just saying that's just the reality of it. It's not like you think this ain't Madden. You ain't about to take dirt and be like, I'm about to make some trades at the top of the roster to make sure I can keep this guy with the stats at the bottom of it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just how I look at the wide receiver room. I'm like, it's fun to argue it, but I think there's more depth and true competition at other positions. Wide receiver room, you know who you're going to get your top three, and those other two guys I think are going to be Turpin and Brooks. The way Dak's using those guys, so that's your five right there. If we carry six, maybe it's T Billy, maybe it's Cropper, but I doubt it.
Hey, and here's another thing I want to talk about: the tight end room. So I think that it's a somewhat deep room as well. Like, I think that they're going to be deadly throwing out of 12 personnel because the way I look at it, I think Jake Ferguson's Mark Andrews, and I think that John Stevens is Isaiah Likely. That's just how I feel about those guys.
I think that John Stevens is John Stevens, and I think that Jake Ferguson is Jake Ferguson.
No, true. But I'm trying to give people like a picture here.
No,
like,
I know what you mean. I'm just saying that they're that good. I'm kind of like fucking with what you're saying. They're that good where they're going to establish their names for themselves, and they're going to be that good. And then because Stevens is good, and then Ferguson is good as well. And if you want to make a better or more crazy comparison, you look at Stevens as your what's his name, Hernandez.
I knew you were going there.
And Ferguson is your Gronkowski. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to look at it that way, cool, no problem. But then you got Hindi, that's still around, still doing
hanging on for dear life.
Ford, whatever his name is, Spanford, I think his name is, big dude. Then there's his name, Brevin.
Yeah, Brevin Spanford. Yeah.
Oh, I love that kid. And then you got Shoemaker who just got hurt. So you got 5 tight ends that I like. And if you want to say that Fant is a H-back, full-back, tight end tweener, whatever you want to call him too, he's pretty good too. So it's like they have definitely, again, added depth to every position. The Cowboys are the deepest team in the league, and you can't even argue. And if you try, it's easy to prove it. Like you start with quarterback, you know what I mean, and work your way down. We're the deepest team in the league. And if you want to say our weakest position is maybe running back, and they're all okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And running back is so much more based off of the blocking in front of them and the scheme. And then running back personnel is really third in that order, at least to me.
Right.
I think that one problem that this team had last year was that they weren't really successful throwing the ball out of 12 personnel. And it's honestly because they only really had one tight end to really throw the football to. So I think you're going to have a lot more success throwing out of 12. And if that can add another wrinkle to this offense, that's going to be huge. I think this offense is actually going to look a lot different than it did last year. I think you're going to start to see them use, a guy like Stevens, a guy like Turpin, a guy like who's another guy that they can use? Lipke. I think you're going to start to see Mike McCarthy use some of this talent that he has. I think year one was, okay, this is the foundation of our offense. Now in year two, the install is out of the way. And I think they're going to start to add a little more wrinkles to this offense, kind of like how a Shanahan has his wrinkles. But in the beginning of his time with San Fran, he was more worried about, all right, let's install this offense, and then we'll worry about everything else come year 2, year 3, year 4. Unfortunately for Mike, he might not have a year 3, but if this team does what they're supposed to do in terms of, I think they're going to win another 12 games. And
the fact that we even having this discussion about a guy who won 12 games every year for the last 3 years is crazy. You know what I mean? But yeah, I feel you though. You're right, but it's still crazy.
Yeah. And here I'm very high on the potential of John Stevens here because you see some of these clips, that dude has catch radius. Like his catch radius is legit.
Right.
And I do want to credit the Cowboys front office has taken a lot of strays this offseason, and they do deserve some of these strays, no doubt about it. But I also don't think that they get the flowers that they probably deserve.
Right.
Because I get that, yeah, a guy like Dak does overcome some of the flaws with this team.
Right.
But who are the ones paying Dak to do that? It's like the front office. And I think that they found a gem here, John Stevens, to where I say, all right, by no means am I saying that he's better than the player I'm about to bring up. He plays a lot like Kyle Pitts type. Like that's the type of tight end he plays like. The difference is Atlanta drafted Kyle Pitts top 4. John Stevens was an undrafted free agent. And the year that Kyle Pitts came out, who did you draft at number 10 or 11? Pick number 10 or 11. You drafted Micah Parsons. So if you're telling me hey, if you could do it over again,
you got Kyle Pitts, Micah Parsons. Yeah.
I'd rather have Micah Parsons than, hey, go get me John Stevens, who has a similar skill set to Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Stevens is going to do his thing. I wouldn't say he is the only, staple though, like the main guy, because I noticed you kind of elevated him above guys that I think may be better. And because of their blocking ability. I need to see Stevens do that before I say he's going to earn time on the field, because they're still not going to bring him out in 12 personnel if you can't sell the run with 2 tight ends, then just put a receiver out there. You know what I'm saying? You need to be able to sell the run and run if you wanted to. That's what I mean by sell the run. So if I don't believe that, hey, they can run left or right with these guys out here because they both can really block and they're passing threat like Ferguson is, then it's a moot point. So I would look at, like I said, Spanford is one of those guys. I look at Henny is not really the blocker either. I look at him and Stevens more like, in the same boat. They're both receiver threats, but when it comes to their blocking ability, there's still more left on the table. So I think when you look at the entire room, I'm looking at Ferguson, Shoemaker, and Spanford as the guys that can do it all, meaning they can block, but they're still receiver threats as well, versus the guys who are just the receiving threats. So you can find packages to bring Stevens in. You can find packages to bring Henny in, especially in goal line situations, stuff like that. But I think when you really just want to play hard-nosed, those guys have to show me in training camp and in preseason that they can block. They need to be able to block. You know what I mean?
So you would put Luke Schoonmaker right now over John Stevens?
Yep.
And you want to know what? I'm pretty sure the coaching staff thinks that as well. No, that's definitely a fair point. I'm interested in Schoonmaker because he has had himself a pretty decent camp here so far. I do think in general the tight ends have to block a little better than what they did last year.
Yeah.
I think that's why they doubled down with Brevin Spanford, because like Luke Schoonmaker, I think it's fair to say this. he has injury concerns. Those concerns are legitimate. And I think having a guy like Brevin Spanford around gives them a little more flexibility to where, like, Schoonmaker can't go today. All right, let's use a practice squad elevation and let's, get him on the team here. So, yeah, you got any final thoughts before we head out here?
As far as the defense is concerned, I'm interested to see what they're looking at. And we'll know in preseason based off the depth chart. But Izzy is still not being talked about, man. Izzy Mukuamu is one of my favorite players on this team, and he doesn't get any tick, or doesn't even get any talk. And I don't understand how a guy that talented is at the bottom of everybody's conversation list. You know what I mean? But I'm interested to see what we do with these safeties and what we do with the secondary, because I want to watch and see what we do and what Zim does and how he evaluates Izzy. Because it's just something that's a head scratcher there for me when you look at a guy that's 6'4", 212. You know what I mean? Basically has the size of a Wanye or Darren Woodson. You know what I mean? But has cornerback skills like a Wanye as well.
And proved it in the playoffs too. He proved he could play in the playoffs against Chris Godwin, who's one of the better, he's one of the better receivers in the slot in the league. So he has shown that he can play a role on this team. And I do think it's
not
fair
a role. I mean, like, he's a player. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. But I know for sure. But I think I'm kind of agreeing with you here to where I say, like, all right, at minimum, this guy should be at least used in situations. Like, hey, if we're going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, I feel good about Izzy Mukuamu on Dallas Goedert. I feel good about that.
Good about Izzy Mukuamu on AJ Brown. He's physical. He's long. He's shifty. He's fast. He can hit. He can cover. You can play him off ball. You can play him like there's not anybody that I'm worried about. Like, that's what I mean about him. Like, even if you were in your base defense and you say he's your free safety or he's your strong, and you want to run with 3 linebackers out there, right? You want Micah Parsons on the field, and you have Hooker single high. You take Izzy and put him down near the line of scrimmage, and they're playing, with a wide receiver in the slot. I don't mind Izzy stepping over and doing that with a single high safety at the top, or if you're running zone and he just rerouting. Like, those are things that you can do with a guy like that you can't do. You can't even sell that with a Wilson, even though I love Wilson. You can't sell that with certain guys. The only other guy in the secondary that you can kind of do some of that stuff with is Wanye. That's it. Who could take single high, he could play box safety, he could play some nickel. Wanye can play everything interior, nickel, single high, or strong, right? Izzy can play perimeter, nickel, single high, strong, whatever you want him to do, tight end eraser. He can do it. He's the best defensive back on his team because he can do more than all the defensive backs on his team. He might not be better than one at one position, meaning I don't think that he's a better cover corner than a Trayvon Diggs, but Trayvon ain't a box safety. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's a better nickel back than, let's say your Wanye, your Blands or your Jordan Lewis. They're probably better full time than he is there, but they can't play perimeter or single high or box. He can do everything in the secondary. So even if he's like a B+ or B- at every position, he's the best one because he can play at a high level at every position. And I'll always pay attention to that. So for him to not be a guy that's talked about, it's got to be a reason. I just don't know what it is.
And hey, you want to know what? That is like the classic example of a take. Like, if you were to go on Twitter and say Israel Mukuamu is the best defensive back on the Cowboys, people would kill you. But once they actually hear your explanation, it's like, oh, all right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because you know how quick people are to quote tweet you and say, you don't know ball, man.
Yeah, they like to do that. But that's why I talk because it's like I don't just say things. You remember Rick James, Dave Chappelle? He's like, I don't just say things. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just out here saying things and shit. The things I'm saying are attached to something that makes sense. Otherwise, what the hell? You see that I don't have anything to say. I'll shut up. I'm not just out here talking just to be talking. I don't even make content for that. I don't make my money from content. even though I could. You know what I mean? I don't care to say something just to be saying something. If I'm saying it, I observed it, or I strongly feel it because of something else I've observed. But I didn't know. It wasn't like I cared about Izzy Mukuamu. I'm one of the ones who said I didn't like Izzy when he got here because he didn't tackle for shit in his film from college. And I'm like, and he was a long guy. He looked like a Nashawn Wright type of guy that was a softie who was long and had good ball skills. But I'm like, where do you put him? He's not a safety. He's not really a corner. I don't know. But he stepped up and did that in that Tampa Bay game. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't know he could do that. And then he was hitting, he was covering. So I said, I didn't know he can do all that. You know what I'm saying? So it made me reevaluate the player. So I'm not an Izzy fan from college where I just say, oh, I hope that he gets on the field. I didn't like him. I didn't like Wanye either. I didn't like Bland either. I'm being honest. I didn't know who they were. Once I start seeing them, I say, oh, I like football play. I don't care about the name of the player. I don't care who. You can have no names on the back of the jerseys. I just like who flashes. And when people flash once, it's like, okay, that's potential. When they do it consistently, I say, oh, that's a player.
That's who they are. Yeah. No, 100%. No, you're 100% right there. And damn, I had a great point. I forgot what I was going to bring up. But you know how quick people are. You don't know ball, man. It's like, yeah, I do. I know it more than you.
Yeah. No one believes me. You don't believe me, bro.
Damn. I'm going to think about that point right after this and be like, oh, shit, I should have said that on the stream. But yeah, no, overall, you got something to plug here before we bounce here?
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. First off, let's just say, make sure if you guys aren't in Philadelphia area, which most of you aren't, that on August 24th, you definitely stream the event, stream this fight. If you want to support my channel or support what I'm doing, the things that I'm about to do when it comes to sports and football and boxing especially are things that are coming out of my mind. You know I'm kind of crazy. So you want to see what I got to offer, man, definitely support it by streaming it at bxngtv.com. I appreciate everything. Everybody's always been, good to me and doing their thing. But stream the fight at bxngtv.com on August 24th. And we're going to rock and roll from there. But outside of that, you guys already know, Bet US Sportsbook has been good to me last year. They're good to me this year. I'm going to be betting using them all year. I'm definitely one of their affiliates now. And if you're looking for a sports bookie, make sure you guys are using Bet US Sportsbook. They're going to offer up to 125% on your first deposit up to $2,000, and they got fast payouts and everything else. So make sure when you start watching my segments, my betting segments, you can use whoever you want. I'm not here to tell you who to use, but who I'm gonna use is Bet US Sportsbook. So make sure you guys are showing love where love is due. Appreciate that.
And hey, I want to pull this up right now. This is the website for AKOYE's boxing event. So definitely make sure to go check it out. Streaming, and definitely make sure if you're in the area, in the Philadelphia area, to show love. I'll be in the building, bro. You know I'll be there. And
Draco Boxing, man. Appreciate that, man. You've been showing love all over IG too, man. I thank you for doing everything you've been doing. I know boxing and football are two different things, but you definitely been showing love, so I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, definitely. Well, all right, guys. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to both channels. We would greatly appreciate it. I'm sure that most people are here from AKOYE's channel. So however many people are over here from my channel, make sure to go check out AKOYE. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.